time ago and became the chairman of the Citizens Advisory Committee for the toll road. As you know, our whole community is held hostage to a toll road. Osceola County, our county, East Orlando particularly. We have very good roads. We pay for those roads. However, the question for you is, now we're challenged to pay for the parkway that's going around the northern part of the city. That means that's taxation without representation. We're also being taxed to pay for a railroad that's going to go through our town. I'm not opposed to these items. However, I'm opposed to Orange County and Osceola paying for these items. Our community leadership, as far as the toll road, is way out of bounds. I actually worked with the Blue Ribbon Committee. I was given full access to that.
Please state your question.
My question is, how can you help us once you're in Washington? We desperately need help with the roads. Thank you.
Thank you. This question, the round.
Well, investments in interstates should not all be handled or fall under the local communities. In Central Florida, we have the tourist industry, and we do very well with that. A lot of the cars that come into our communities are out of state, and has an effect on our roads. Yet you don't see any tourist dollars going to roads, do you? So there's a way to skin a cat, and what I would tell you is I would look at ways in which to figure out why is it that we've been paying 10 cents or started at 10 cents at the toll at the airport back in '77, and that road's still not paid for. Doesn't make any sense to me.
I speak with Congressman Micah the other night in Orange County. But when we collect, gas monies, the federal government has, they call it an enterprise fund. Money you collect is the money that you spend on infrastructure. So I just have a problem when we overspend that. When we take money from general revenue, which is basically deficit spending for that infrastructure, what we need to do is create a funding formula within the enterprise fund. So we shouldn't be taking general revenue dollars for that. We have specific monies dedicated from the federal government to allocate for that. We shouldn't be building bridges to nowhere. We should be identifying where our high population target areas that need some relief. And one issue that I have with Sunrail, it's kind of the opposite of the Magic Arena. The government, when the arena is not in play, the government owns it for the rest of the time and they can make more money off it. Sunrail is the completely opposite. They still own the tracks. And they not only do they own the tracks, but they actually own it during the day too. So at a certain time, I believe the cutoff is like 8 o'clock at night. You can't even use it. They're going to use it as freight. And so it's a completely bad deal for Sunrail. And I kind of believe what he said. If Sunrail is going to be used, it's probably used more by tourists than it is an average person because I'm not giving up my car. So the tourist development dollars should have paid for it. But I just think that it's a bad deal for Sunrail. In Osceola County, not all of us even have access to it because it only goes through the I-4 corridor. If you live in UCF, how are you going to get from UCF to the actual train? It makes no sense. And then on top of that, there's no dedicated funding source for it after it's built, because after 7 years, the state's not going to contribute. So what taxes are we going to have to increase in order to do that? So I do believe in mass transit, but the way this CSX deal was created, it just stinks in every which way I look at it.
You probably know where I'm headed. I mean, the federal government does have a role to play at interstate highways. Obviously, one state can't do it. But anything locally within the state, it doesn't. The federal government, as we know, doesn't have any money. We're $16 trillion in debt, intent to just completely crushing this nation. So, as a practical matter, I will also say this: you're going to, I think, want your representative. There's a number of incredibly difficult challenges. I think you're going to want your congressman to be focused in on those. But I will say this: at any time you're in a place of position of leadership, the concerns of the community and the people, whether they're local or not, are also your concerns. And you should be educated about that. Spend time with your people. Talk to the local officials that actually make those decisions and give your advice and input or help educate the public on any matter that involves them. So I think there's a role to play sort of as a leader to be caring about those issues. But I do think that your representative really needs to focus his time, energy, and passion on finding some solutions to these national challenges, which is probably what I'm going to be doing the vast majority of my time.
Sunrail, I think, is going to cost $1 billion to implement. Now, I don't want to say anything bad. Not here, but my opponent here, Mr. Keown, is a big supporter of the Sunrail, and it'll probably be as successful as the Amtrak system. We need to quit wasting money. We have big government Republicans, just like we have big government Democrats that are wasting our money. One of the things that I promised to do when I get to Congress is I'm going to fight in Congress, but I plan to come back here and fight on the district. I plan to fight against the Osceola County Commission. I plan to fight against the Orange County Commission. I plan to fight against the Osceola School Board. I plan to fight against the Orange County School Board. There's things that right now, if I go out there and I fight against the school board, I'm one guy without any kids in that school. They're not going to listen to me. But when I represent 700,000 people, you better believe that the school board and the counties are going to have somebody to deal with. And I will fight for you at the public level, at the national level, and I'll fight for you here locally.
What could you do to alleviate that problem? And we'll start with Mr. Nieves.
Well, again, I feel that problem starts with your local elected officials and how they.
I'm going to interrupt you right there. The problem is already there. So if you're going to be in Congress, and our local representatives have already said, we're going to spend money that we don't have. We're going to take money from our neighbors in Alaska to spend money here on a project that citizens here probably won't use. What would you do?
Well, I guess I would start in that sense. I would start with seeking funding so that we can try to manage traffic in Orlando in a better way than we do. Starting with, I'll give you an example. You go to Miami, you go to New York, you go to LA. I mean, cities manage their traffic. You have rush hours in the morning, you have rush hours at night. You've got dedicated lanes, and we don't do anything like that here. I'm not sure. You got semis going down I-4, going up and down embankments, a curve that you have an truck accident just about every month. Perhaps I can look at some safety issues to address funding for some of these roads. But I guess Todd mentioned it best. You got to get in the community. You got to talk to constituents. You got to find out what the issues are and take that ammunition and go to Washington and address those issues.
Okay. You have to be very careful because that's where the earmarks come into play. That's how we, want to make you happy. I'll build your road here. It's kind of like what I said initially in my answer. There has to be a funding formula that makes sense within the enterprise fund, within the transportation trust fund. You cannot overspend. As much as I'd like to make you happy and win your vote over by building you a bridge or building a road, I think that's what got us into the financial mess that we're in right now. We do not have any money. And that's the burden that's going to come from the states and the county governments to help fund that road. And again, the federal government can fund money for transportation. We have it, but we have to live within our means. I'm not going to earmark something because my community wants it or they're going to vote for me. I'm not going to be held hostage to the principles of a balanced budget.
Earmarks are corrupt and bad policy, but they're unconstitutional. The Constitution doesn't say that Congress can tax and spend for any reason it wants. It said it can only spend for certain enumerated items, and then there was the general welfare of the United States. Clearly, all these local earmarks, the Robert Byrd Airport, or all these things that the Republicans were doing, actually, more than the Democrats when they were in power, it's not even constitutional. So if you want your congressman to really honor the Constitution at all times, not when it's just convenient, then I'm going to be your person. I'm going to do that for you. So that's pretty much my answer.
Same mistakes. One of my opponents here, who's not here again, was at an event and promised that I'm going to go to Congress and bring you back to Ponciano Parkway. We have no money. We need to stop the Sunrail before it gets out of hand. We still have opportunity to save the money, and we need to fight from Congress and fight locally to stop the spending before it's too late.
Thank you.